Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Right now we are in Daytona Beach, Florida, not too far away from one of the world's most famous beaches. And there's a really beautiful cemetery here. It's called Daytona Park Cemetery. And there's a couple interesting people laid to rest here that I want to tell you a little bit about. One of them happens to be one of the most legendary baseball players of all time. Personally, I love baseball. I grew up on it. And the person that we're going to visit today was ranked one of the greatest of all time. And there's a couple other interesting people here. There's one other interesting story that I'm going to share with you from somebody who is laid to rest here. But his grave is unmarked for a very interesting reason that I think you might get a kick out of. But we're going to go and visit some of these graves, check out what else is here. And yeah, so come along. Well, this is one of the beautiful things about Florida cemeteries, is that there are a lot of palm trees, there's a lot of interesting landscape, a lot of lizards, and this is a first for me. There's cactuses down here. It's pretty interesting. Now, the first name that we have to visit was a man by the name of Nap Lajoie. Now, you might know him as another name because there's a lot of people that are not completely sure how his name is pronounced, but he was a French-born baseball player, and his name was, from everything that I've gathered, it's pronounced Lajoie. But he was born in 1874, and he was ranked one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He played 21 seasons in Major League Baseball, and I mean, he was just one of the greatest. He had a lifetime batting average of .334, which not many people have been able to say that. He was a competitor of Ty Cobb, who was also one of the greatest players of that era. And he wasn't a big home run hitter. I think he hit 80-some home runs in his whole lifetime. But he had over 3,000 hits, one of the first members of the exclusive 3,000 hit club. But he played for the Philadelphia Phillies, then the Philadelphia Athletics. Cleveland actually briefly named their team after him, the Cleveland Naps. And then he became a manager, but he won the Triple Crown in 1901, 5-time AL batting champion, 3-time RBI leader. I mean, he was one of the first people inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1937. Just an absolute legend. And he passed away here in Daytona Beach back in 1959 at the age of 84 years old. But this is the gravesite of Nap Lajoie. Napoleon Larry Lajoie. He has all of his teams on here. He was a great hitter and most graceful and effective second baseman of his era. Managed Cleveland for 4 years. Sorry about that airplane. Just on the other side of the cemetery is an airport, so they're pretty much nonstop. Managed Cleveland 4 years, league batting champion 1901, 1903, and 1904. Lived a nice long life. He was also known as one of baseball's good guys. There was a point in time where it was kind of debated whether or not teams wanted Lajoie or Ty Cobb. Ty Cobb was an excellent baseball player, one of the best of all time, but so was Lajoie. And the difference was that people got along with Nap a little bit better. Ty Cobb was known to be very aggressive, harder to deal with, difficult to get along with. He was, not a very good teammate. Just not quite as good of as a character as you would want on your team. But this is the final resting place of a baseball icon. I have to show this here too. Looks like there was somebody that visited here and left a baseball from the Daytona Tortugas, which is their minor league team here. And I should show the back of this too, just because you never know. Sometimes there's interesting things on the back that I kind of forget to show. But Napoleon Lajoie. Definitely somebody any of you baseball fans would know. This is a pretty interesting memorial here. And this one belongs to a man by the name of David Sholtz. Lived from 1891 to 1953. His wife Alice. And his claim to fame was he was governor of the state of Florida from 1933 to 1937. Hopefully you can see that. It's a beautiful final resting place. For just a little bit more information on him, he was also a member of the Florida House of Representatives in 1917. He was state attorney for the 7th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida, 1919 to 1921, and president of the Florida Chamber of Commerce. Then he became governor of Florida. Passed away in 1953 at the age of only 61 years old. Passed away in the Florida Keys. But this is a pretty impressive final resting place. Definitely one of the biggest here. And to give you the full 360 effect. These above ground vaults really are beautiful. Former Florida Governor David Sholtz. Now, before we get to the next famous grave that I want to show you, I want to tell you a little bit more about somebody else who is laid to rest here, but they unfortunately have an unmarked plot, and I'm not sure where exactly they are. But this man was Fred Merkel, and he was a pretty well-known baseball player back in the early 1900s. He played for the New York Giants, he played for the Chicago Cubs, the New York Yankees. He had a heck of a career. He played, I think, 19 or 20 seasons in Major League Baseball. But he was best known for a base running error that he made early in his career, and people started calling him Bonehead, and that was a nickname that he did not like. That was a nickname he never outlived, and when he passed away, he did not want his gravesite to be marked because he didn't want Bonehead written on his tombstone, which he thought people would do, and he really didn't want vandals to come in and write Bonehead on his grave marker. So he is laid to rest in this cemetery, although it's not known where. But Fred Merkel. It's just so peaceful out here. Now, when you think of Daytona, a lot of people would probably think of Daytona, NASCAR, racing, Daytona International Speedway. We know we've been here a couple times before. I've talked about the Dale Earnhardt crash that happened at the track, but up here is one of NASCAR's icons, one of the originals, one of the innovators, one of the best that there was, that probably the best there ever was that didn't actually win a grand championship. But this is Fireball Roberts. Hopefully these airplanes aren't making it difficult to hear. I apologize for that. They're pretty much one right after another. But this is Fireball Roberts. He was born Glenn Roberts, January 20th, 1929. He passed away July 2nd, 1964, just a couple weeks after suffering a horrible crash in Charlotte, and he suffered burns on about 80% of his body, and he ended up contracting sepsis and pneumonia, and he passed away in 1964. But it said he brought to stock car racing a freshness, distinction, a championship quality that surpassed the rewards collected by the checkered flag. Florida Sports Writers Award for the Most Outstanding Athlete, 1958. Voted NASCAR's Most Popular Driver, 1957. Daytona 500, 1962. Daytona Firecracker, 1959, 62, and 63. Southern 500 at Darlington, 58 through 63. Rebel 300 at Darlington, 1957 to 1959. Atlanta Dixie 400, 1960. There's also Edward G. Roberts, 1900 to 1987. Doris T. Roberts, 1911 to 1988. But this is just an incredible final resting place. And if you ever want to come and see him, you want to make sure that when you come to Daytona Park, Daytona Memorial Park, that the main road that's out here, you want to turn right into that side, because Daytona Park is both sides of the road, and then when you wrap around, take a left, and it's just right up here. Now, nobody wants to think about the day when your number is up, but this would be a beautiful place to be laid to rest. It really would. Well, I hope you enjoyed this brief cemetery tour. As you know, I do enjoy going to cemeteries all over the country, especially when it comes to famous graves, celebrities, people with interesting stories, because as we've said before, everybody has a story and there's something interesting about everybody. But we like to focus on those stories and deliver them to you from the locations where it actually happens. But not just cemeteries. We visit Hollywood homes, we visit interesting places in people's careers, museums, roadside attractions, a little bit of anything that I would consider interesting. So hopefully you find those same things interesting, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if this is your first time, if you enjoy this sort of thing. But other than that, thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Catch you later, everybody.